right, now let's go into this article. South Korea's birth rate has already plummeted to hell. It is the worst in the world. But apparently, they have declared full-fledged war to combat low birth rate. So let's see what they're doing. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol on Wednesday declared a national emergency on population, rolling out measures to expand cash support for newborn babies and reverse the declining birth rate trend. The population crisis caused by extremely low birth rates is the foremost and critical issue for South Korea, he said, adding that the rapid population decline has now become a matter prompting concerns about the very survival of South Korea. Yoon made the announcement during a meeting of the Presidential Committee on Aging Society and Population Policy, where he chairs alongside representatives from the Finance Ministry and Welfare Ministry at the HD Hyundai Global R&D Center in Bungdang, Gyeonggi Province. This was the first population committee since meeting President Yoon has personally convened since March 2023. According to Yoon, the new measures stem from a thorough reassessment of the government's past efforts to boost the country's birth rate, which had proven ineffective despite substantial investments. In the first quarter, South Korea's fertility rate, the number of children a woman has within her lifetime, hit a quarterly low of 0.76 and is projected to drop another fresh low of 0.68 in 2024. Recognizing the urgency of the issue, Yoon says the government is launching a comprehensive emergency response system. This includes establishing the Population Strategy Department, the new ministry Yoon had pledged to create in May when marking his second presidential anniversary. According to the new plans, the head of the new ministry will also serve as the Deputy Prime Minister for Social Affairs, a role currently held by the Education Minister, to oversee the development of national strategies addressing population issues and the broader social policies in education, labor, and welfare to tackle the low birth rate. Additionally, a senior presidential secretary position dedicated to tackling low birth rate is to be created. The government highlighted its policy in the three core areas, work-life balance, childcare, and housing. First, measures have been rolled out to support parents in balancing work and childcare responsibilities. This includes the introduction of 2 weeks of short-term childcare leave for emergencies, such as when children fall ill. The age limit for reduced working hours during childcare will also be raised from 8 years old to 12 years old, with the maximum period extended from 24 months to 36 months. To encourage fathers' involvement in childcare, paternity leave after childbirth will increase from 10 days to 20 days. Fathers will also be able to take leave during their wife's pregnancy under specific conditions rather than only after the birth. Yoon also aims to increase paternity usage rate from 6.8% to 50% within his term and raise the female usage rate from 70% to 80%. 6.8% for paternity leave, because this is how it says usage rate. So some of these men did have paternity leave. They just did not want to use it because of gender roles in this country. So how is he going to increase it from 6.8% to 50% is wild to even fathom. The child care leave pay gap for the initial 3 months will also be raised to 2.5 million won or $2,400 from the current 1.5 million won. Okay, to $2,400. All right, bet. This amount will decrease to 2 million won in the subsequent 3 months and to 1.6 million won over the following 6 months. Additionally, to support employers, the monthly subsidy for hiring replacement workers will increase to 1.2 million won. Second, Yoon committed to the government taking responsibility in supporting childcare and vowed to gradually implement a public childcare system covering children from birth to 11 years old within his tenure. To achieve this, the government will provide free education and care for children aged 3 to 5, expand after-school programs to all elementary school grades nationwide by 2026, and incrementally increase free program offerings. Addressing the shortage of domestic caregivers amid the population decline and aging The government aims to significantly boost the availability of both public and private caregivers, targeting 300,000 households by 2027. Where is he going to get these caregivers? Is he importing labor as well? Is he grabbing labor? Where is he going to get these people? This initiative includes recruiting 1,200 foreign domestic workers by the first half of 2025 and facilitating foreign students and spouses of foreign workers to participate in caregiving roles, with 5,000 individuals involved in the pilot program. We will see if people are just rushing to South Korea, especially women. Are women just rushing to South Korea with their sexism problem that is baked into the cake of that country? The government will also explore measures to enable private agencies to recruit, mediate, and manage foreign caregivers from abroad. Lastly, Yoon underscored the government's commitment to tackling housing issues for newlyweds and families with children. Initiatives included expanding housing allocations for households with newborns to 1,200 units. I'm sorry, 120,000 units. I don't know how I can say 1,200, and developing new housing sites tailored for newlyweds and families with newborns or multiple children. The government will streamline access to home purchase and rental loans for those with newborns and offer improved preferential interest rates for each birth. To reduce financial barriers to marriage for young people, a new marriage tax deduction will be introduced and child deductions will be expanded. Yoon stated that the Emergency Population Response Meeting will be convened monthly by the Population Committee to review policies until the launch of the Population Strategy Department. The June 19th discussion was also attended by Employment and Labor Minister Lee Jung-sik, Education Minister Lee Joo-ho, and Land, Infrastructure and Transport Minister Park Sang-woo, alongside various representative policy stakeholders, including working mothers and fathers of multiple children, as well as representatives from corporate entities such as HD Hyundai Chairman Kwon Oh-gap and Vice Chairman Chung Ki-sung. Ahead of the meeting, Yoon also visited Dreamboat, the company daycare center located inside HD Hyundai's building, the Korean Herald ANN. Okay, now I read all of this, and I hadn't completely read it before I read this to y'all. And keep in mind that this minister, this president of South Korea, is an anti feminist man. He ran and won on his anti feminist take. And his country is very misogynistic and sexist. They are highly anti feminist in this country. So I was wondering if I was going to read how they were going to work on being a better place for women to live that is not so antagonistic. Because recently, and actually 2 days before that article was posted, this thread was created by this South Korean woman, saying, "Does your country respect pregnant women and mothers?" In South Korea, young men refer to subway chairs for pregnant women as certified women of the night who have been ejaculated in the vagina. And she posted these pictures of how pregnant women, are treated. And why would any single woman without kids sign up to be treated like this? Is this person, this president, going to address the young men and the hostility women face in his country? I highly doubt it. So this South Korean feminist says what's happening in South Korea and says that Korean men depreciate ministrating women as blood poopers. Vandalism and violence. The issue doesn't just stay on the internet. As above, these men actually vandalize the seats by crossing out pregnant symbols, putting up a poster that compares feminism to Nazism, and even beating up a pregnant woman. Now, Korean men vandalize the seat and call the seat something which translates to cream pie certified, just to humiliate actual women who were meant for the seat in the first place. The humiliating slurs aren't a new idea, since Korean men are calling women blood squirter everywhere on the internet. And they are harassing pregnant women. Korean women started to fight back against these petty attempts of men by reporting men sitting in pregnant seats. Now, once they address all of this in society, maybe women would even think of it. But why would women want to bring other girls into this world knowing that this is how they are treated? Jump in the comments and let me know what you think. Like, the birth rate topic is one that will continue to be here, especially since the leaders of these countries are not listening to women. Women will continue to opt out. Now, CNN titles this "The Fertility Crisis is Here and It Will Permanently Alter the Economy." And this is not necessarily about fertility, because I'm sure our fertility is fine. I mean, give or take. But the birth rate is impacted because women are purposely opting out. They're saying, get someone else to do it. What's wild is they start this article off with, "The world needs more babies." The world's leaders, and this is a global patriarchy, they are unwilling to listen to women, or women are just tired of shouldering the load. But let's get into the article. Falling fertility rates have long been a concern for economists, worried that aging societies could diminish the labor force, further exacerbate inflation, upend the consumer culture upon which mature economies depend, and overwhelm government programs meant to care for aging populations. Those changes are upon us now. A new study by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, says that declining birth rates will permanently alter the demographic makeup of the world's largest economies over the next decade. But the thing is, they're talking about how society is going to be diminished, the workforce, and exacerbate inflation, upend consumer culture. There are not enough babies to grow into humans that will work and spend. And these world leaders know this, but they have these billionaires sitting on top of money like Scrooge McDuck and won't give out. And this money is not being passed around. These resources are not being passed around, but they are hand wringing, wondering why people do not want to have babies, where some people have all of the money and then everybody else, the 90% of everybody else, has to fight over the couple of crumbs that are left. What's happening? If forecasts hold up, 2064 will be the first year in modern history where the global death rate surpasses the birth rate. But the world's largest economies are already there. The total fertility rate among the OECD's 38 member countries dropped to just 1.5 children per woman in 2022 from 3.3 in 1960. That's well below the replacement rate of 2.1 children per woman needed to keep populations constant. That means the supply of workers in many countries is quickly diminishing. They keep speaking about humans like capital, like resources. In the 1960s, there were 6 people of working age for every retired person, according to the World Economic Forum. Today, the ratio is closer to 3 to 1. By 2035, it's expected to be 2 to 1. Top executives at publicly traded U.S. companies mentioned labor shortages nearly 7,000 times in earnings calls over the last decade, according to an analysis by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis last week. I bet you they didn't talk about increasing wages and decreasing their salaries, though. I bet you they didn't talk about that. A reduction in the share of workers can lead to labor shortages, which may raise the bargaining power of employees and lift wages, all of which is ultimately inflationary. Simona Paravana Millinghoff, managing director at BlackRock, wrote in an analysis last year. Now, these bargaining power of the employees going up means that these companies will have to pay their employees more, but they do not want to relinquish any of the money that they are paying themselves, and therefore they will continue to exacerbate this problem. Okay, it continues with, all while net immigration has helped offset demographic problems facing rich countries in the past, the shrinking population is now a global phenomenon. This is critical because it implies advanced economies may start to struggle to, goodness gracious, import labor from such places, either via immigration or sourcing goods. And the crazy part of this, especially in our country, we push back against immigration. We really don't want people coming here. And the hostility, especially to the migrants, is going to keep people away. But also the economy that is fluctuating will make it will make people not necessarily even want to come here because our economy is so flaky. By 2100, only 6 countries are expected to be having enough children to keep their population stable. Africa's Chad, Niger, and Somalia, the Pacific islands of Samoa and Tonga, and Tajikistan, according to research published by The Lancet, a medical journal. BlackRock's experts advises her clients to invest in inflation-linked bonds as well as inflation hedging commodities like energy, industrial metals, and agriculture and livestock. What it means, CEOs and politicians are already preparing for the baby bust. So she doesn't advise these people to actually pay better wages and stop sitting on salaries that they will never be able to spend in their lifetime. No, they don't talk about that kind of thing. They just talk about hedging their bets. This will bust. This will bust, and they aren't doing anything about it. Elon Musk, aka the modern day Scrooge McDuck, and father of 12 children, most being out of wedlock, has remarked that falling birth rates will lead to a civilization that ends not with a bang, but a whimper in adult diapers. But like I said, he is one of those people that is sitting on a mountain of money, and his companies, they're not distributing all this money. They don't want to give resources to poor people, poor countries, or anything, but they expect these people to make babies. Please make that make sense. While his words are incendiary, they're not entirely wrong. P&G and Kimberly-Clark, which together make up more than half of the U.S. diaper market, have seen baby diaper sales decline over the past few years, but adult diaper sales, they say, are a bright spot in their portfolios. Other companies are also pivoting towards an older demo. Nestle's chief executive, Mark Snyder, recently said he shifted the company's priorities from producing infant formula to serving the nutritional needs of people over the age of 50. Overstretched governments. French President Emmanuel Macron in January announced a plan for demographic rearmament in his country through fertility testing and more parental leave. Former President Donald Trump also recently promised that if elected, he would support baby bonuses for a new baby boom in the United States. The CDC reported that the U.S. birth rate in 2023 fell to a record low, reversing a small uptick seen during the COVID pandemic. The Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, is also predicting that deaths will outnumber births just over 15 years from now. I do want to point out that I believe that the French president does not have any children, so maybe he should work on that as well. Those findings underpin the agency's economic forecast and budget projections, said Molly Dahl, a senior advisor at the CBO. What you're seeing is increased spending on programs like Medicare and Social Security as baby boomers are aging into those programs. And then, of course, fewer workers relative to the number of people who are receiving Social Security and Medicare benefits. Social Security payments still provide about 90% of income for more than a quarter of older adults in the United States, according to Social Security Agency surveys. But without intervention, the Social Security Trust Fund will be depleted by the mid-2030s, meaning that only a portion of retirees' expected benefits will be paid out. They need to also acknowledge that lawmakers have played a role in how Social Security benefits have been plundered over the past few decades. The AI solution. Some business leaders and technologists see the boom in productivity through AI as a potential solution. Here are the facts. We are not having enough children, and we have not been having enough children for long enough that there is a demographic crisis. Former Google CEO and Executive Chairman Eric Schmidt said at the Wall Street Journal's CEO Council Summit in London last year. In aggregate, all of the demographics say there's going to be a shortage of humans for jobs, literally too many jobs and not enough people for at least the next 30 years. But he said AI will ease those problems significantly. A recent report by Goldman Sachs predicted that generative AI could raise global GDP by as much as 7% over a 10-year period. Still, some experts say it's too soon to tell how AI will impact the global economy. A recent study by analysts at the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond concluded that AI could increase labor productivity between 1.5%, and 18%. That is a huge range over the next decade. This ranges from barely noticeable to substantial, they said. The long term solution to declining fertility rates, says Stefano Scarpetta, Director for Employment, Labor, and Social Affairs at the OECD, is to promote more gender equality and fairer sharing of work and child rearing. It also means more paid parental leave and financial support. It also means that many of these people will have to stop sitting on all of the resources while there is so few resources for everyday. In the meantime, this is not just a temporary blip. Companies, governments need to prepare for now what he calls a low fertility future. It will be a low fertility future, and people are not really getting to the root of the problem. So it's going to continue this way for the time being. And I, of course, will be watching these numbers. Jump in the comments. Let me know what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.